Hello, welcome to another video. This one is a viewer suggestion. It was suggested by Bambi, and the video is the difference between gender and sexuality. This was what was suggested, but as I researched, I decided it might be more useful if I was to separate gender into its three aspects: biological gender, gender identity, and gender expression. So to start off with, let's break down sexuality, determine what it is and how it affects the human condition, and then we can move on, and at the end we can go through what each of them mean and how they relate, and how then the three aspects of gender are different from sexuality. Sexuality is a very broad term, and it has varied over time, which makes it difficult to precisely define. The biological and physical aspects of sexuality largely relate to the reproductive system and reproduction, and also the human reproduction cycle. But someone's sexual orientation is their pattern of sexual interest, both physical and emotional. Aspects of this are things such as feelings, caring, loving, trust. But it all comes down to someone's sexual orientation, how they interact sexually. This can be affected by culture. It can be affected by culture, political, legal, philosophical, moral, ethical, and also religious aspects of their life. Although no single theory on the cause of sexual orientation has yet gained widespread support, there is more evidence to support non-social causes of sexual orientation than social ones, especially for males. Hypothesized social causes are supported only by weak evidence, and this is further supported by cross-culture evidence, because cultures that are very tolerant of homosexuality do not have significantly higher rates of homosexuality. So what are the different categories of sexuality? There's straight, also known as heterosexual, which is attracted mainly to people of the opposite gender. There's gay or homosexual, which is attracted mostly to the people of the same sex or gender. It usually refers to men, but has often been used to refer to women as well. There's lesbian, attracted mostly to people of the same sex or gender, which is used expressly for women. There's bisexual, attracted to both men and women. There's pansexual, attracted to romantic and sexual partners of any gender, sex, or sexual identity. Pan meaning all. There's polysexual, attracted romantically and sexually patterns of many but not all genders. Poly meaning many. And there's asexual, not really attracted to anyone. Some people also use the term queer and fluid as a way of expressing themselves by their own personal feelings. So that kind of sums up sexuality. So what's gender identity? Gender identity is a personal sense of one's own gender. Gender identity can correlate with assigned sex at birth, or can differ from it. All societies have a set of gender categories that can serve as the basis of the formulation of a person's social identity. in relation to other members of society. In most societies, there is a basic diversion between gender attributes assigned to males and females, a gender binary to which most people adhere, and which includes expectations of masculinity, femininity in all aspects of sex and gender. Biological sex, gender identity and gender expression. Some people do not identify with some or all of these aspects of gender assigned to their biological sex. Some of these people are transgender, non-binary or genderqueer. Some societies have third gender categories. Core gender identity is usually formed by the age of 3. It is extremely difficult to change. And attempts to reassign it have resulted in gender dysphoria and have led to severe mental problems such as depression. What is gender expression? Gender expression is a person's behaviours, meaning interests and appearances, that are associated with the gender in particular culture, significantly with categories of femininity or masculinity. This also includes gender roles. These categories rely on stereotypes about gender. Gender expression typically reflects a person's gender identity, their internal sense of their own gender, as we just discussed, but this is not always the case. Gender expression is separate and independent both from sexual orientation and gender assigned at birth. A type of gender expression that is considered atypical for a person's perceived gender may be described as gender non-conforming. So that's gender identity, was sexual assignment or biological gender. Biological gender, sometimes known as gender assignment, often infant sex at birth. In the majority of births, a relative or doctor or even a physician inspects the genitalia when the baby is delivered, and the sex and gender are assigned without the expectation of ambiguity. Assignment may also be done prior to birth through prenatal sex discernment. That all surrounds around the physical body and is determined by the genitalia as such. So there are the 3 aspects of gender and also sexuality. So how do they all relate? All the aspects of gender fall around a person. You have the person's body, their outer shell, what it's comprised of, what its genitalia is, and what it looks like. Also how it's genetically made up. Gender identity is the internal self. It's how a person feels, how they relate to the world. And there's the gender expression, which is how they express what they feel, how they express who they are to the world. It's all about the individual. Sexuality is how we relate to others. It's how we attract to others. It's all about who someone is connected to rather than who someone is. So that's where the two differ. Gender is all about self. Sexuality is all about others and how we connect to them. And for years they have been considered to be linked, as have all the aspects of gender, especially in Western cultures. But in other cultures that hasn't always been the case. In Native America, going back as early as the 1600s, there are records of transgender people, as well as multiple sexualities. And in Asian cultures, it goes back just as far, if not further, with the inclusion of third genders. There are records, tombstones and other information that show transgender and other sexualities existing as early as ancient Greece and Rome. Um, this has all changed in the last few thousand years due to Western culture spreading around the world and creating a heteronormative cis-normative society, meaning it's normal to be cisgender, meaning biologically born a gender and identifying as that gender and expressing as that gender, and to be heteronormative, meaning to be in a heterosexual relationship. But over the last 50, 60 years, that's been challenged by multiple groups, such as the Stonewall riots and the protests following the Stonewall riots, and other places around the world for LGBT rights, showing that there is a separation between these things. There's a separation between gender and sexuality, in that a person can be male and attracted to a male, or attracted to a female, and a female can be attracted to a male or a female, and the transgender people have a separation between physical gender and also gender identity, and that their gender expression will change because of that, and that some cisgendered females will express their gender in more masculine ways. Cisgendered males will express their gender in more feminine ways, and this is all normal. It's because we exist not in a binary of a 1 and a 0, but in a spectrum of multiple layers. So we fall anywhere on this different spectrum. A person can and will have genders and gender expression and gender identity that is unique to themselves, falling somewhere along the spectrum. And the evidence that has been collected over the years further supports this. So I guess in summary of the original suggestion of this video, the difference between gender and sexuality, what I'm saying is that a person can be any gender. That doesn't define who they're attracted to. But as a subcategory of that, they can be a physical gender but a different mental gender, a different gender identity, and that their expression doesn't always express what their identity is. Whilst most of the time it does, it's not always the case. And if that is the case, then why do we have these terms in the first place? Well, the simplest answer for that would be that whilst we are all individuals and don't fit into boxes because we're not ones and zeros, we're a spectrum, and being transgender isn't the only thing about me that is important, therefore I can't just be picked up and dropped into a transgender box and the lid put on and there we go, that's my box for life, because there are multiple other aspects to me that could put me into other boxes. Therefore, there isn't just one box that I fit into, and it's the same for everybody else. So why do we have them? Well, it's a good way of expressing a lot of information quickly. If every time I met someone I had to say I was born male at birth and I am female in my mind, so I am now transitioning and I'm attracted to men, women, transsexuals and other gender non-conforming people, I can be attracted to any of them. That's a lot of information to explain every time. So having these little labels, I can say I am a transgender woman and I am pansexual, which is a lot shorter and easier to express, a lot of information condensed into a small sentence. But we've got to remember as a people and a culture that that's what they are. They're not labels to define us, they're labels to express and condense information. So it is easier to get across who we are in a faster time, not to explain what we are and box us up for our lives. So really what I'm saying is, yes, there's a difference between gender and sexuality, and that there are different subcategories of each, but that's all they are, is words. The truth behind all of that is what we are at people, and people are different, and we should accept that about each other. We should embrace that about each other, because what makes us different is what keeps everything interesting. If we were all the same, then nothing in life would have any meaning or difference. It is differences and the uniqueness that bring beauty to the world. So to close ourselves off to one aspect because of religion or ethical reasons or even legal reasons is to blind yourself to a beauty of the world. It is better just to accept and embrace all of that beauty and see it for what it is, and not to try and label it and box it up. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for watching this video. I have linked all of my sources down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, you can hit the dislike button. I have no issues with that. And if you did like it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel and also clicking the notification bell so you can be notified the next time I upload a video. I am trying to do 2 a week, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks and bye.